The worst time to make major adjustments to fix your swing is during the season. The off season is the secret weapon to success for serious athletes. Raising athletes, the things that causes all dads to go bald and moms to buy minivans, empowering parents to help their kids succeed. Most parents don't realize that making major mechanical changes to an athlete's swing can actually set athletes back. Instead of improving, many athletes regress because they're not being asked to perform and compete while simultaneously trying to overhaul their fundamentals. The off-season is where real growth happens, and that's where you want to invest in your child's future success. Professionals like Mike Trout, Jenny Finch, or Shohei Ohtani, these are players who spend a tremendous amount of time in the off-season in intense training, fine-tuning mechanics, increasing strength, focusing on recovery. They don't make these major big changes during the season. And when the season ends, that's when the real work begins. During the season, they're actually just making little corrections to keep them on track. During the off season is when they're actually making those mechanical adjustments to prepare them for the next season. Here are some of the core concepts of why the off season is crucial for young athletes. Let's break down why this time of year, right after the fall season ends, is actually the best time for young athletes for development. Number one, freedom to focus on mechanics without the pressure to perform. Oftentimes, a lot of these young athletes are trying to make the cool new change, or they're trying to adopt a swing that they've seen someone else do during the season. But the problem with doing that, the pressure's on the line. You've got a game that you have to perform to help your team win, and it's very hard to actually be successful when you don't understand the mechanics, when you've yet to really perfect those mechanical changes, and they end up going into a slump. During the off-season, it's a time to build strength, speed, and mobility without risking the in-game fatigue. Also, it's a great time, it's an ideal time to experiment with things like different grips, stances, arm slots, swing paths. This is a huge one right here because there are little things like that that could make big changes. For example, I have an athlete that I coach that recently actually learned that they like to use a double grip. That's not for me. That's not for a lot of athletes, but we were able to experiment with it because of their grip style. So we added a second grip to increase that thickness of their grip. And guess what? For them, it worked, but it took some time for them to understand that. It took some time for them to adjust to that grip, and they were able to get a really great result with it. That took time learning. Had we tried to implement that in the middle of the season, it would have been too off. It would have been uncomfortable, and they would not have gotten that same result. Also, adjusting to new equipment, bigger bats, new gloves, new cleats. This is another really big one here because as young athletes grow, guess what? They need a different glove. They need a different bat. And thrusting that new equipment on them in the middle of a season is not going to end well. Adding a heavier bat, a longer bat in the middle of a season when there's so many other variables at play is basically setting them up for failure. And a young athlete who doesn't have the emotional maturity to handle that could get them into a place where they get disappointed, they get discouraged, and they want to quit. We want to avoid that. Give them that best chance of success. So leverage the off season for your opportunity to introduce new equipment. Also, the recovery from these nagging pain, these nagging injuries, it helps them to rebuild better and stronger. Also, the mental reset and the ability to reflect on last season's performance and then come up with a plan based on the season for your off-season development. And then lastly, some of these core concepts, it helps to jumpstart training before everyone else does. It's a huge competitive advantage to give a child an opportunity to focus on strengths, to focus on strengthening their weaknesses, to adopt these new techniques. Because we're talking about this because why? it's actually not the obvious solution for a lot of young athletes and a lot of young parents who are maybe new to this. Your child is becoming more and more serious about the sport. They're getting a little bit older now. Now's the time to arm them with the best chance of success. And a lot of these tools that we're talking about is not obvious to a lot of these parents. So it's a competitive advantage to those young athletes who decide, you know what, I'm going to take the off season to get that instructor, that private training, that one-on-one time, that expert who's going to help that child really develop now in that off season. And when it comes now time for that spring season, you're going to notice a huge jump. You're going to notice a huge change. It's hard for us to see the changes day by day. That 1% improvement every single day, sometimes it's not noticeable. But where you're going to see the change is when you take an entire off season. You take those 3 to 5 months of working with a personal trainer every single week. Where you're going to notice the difference is that first game back, that first practice back with their team in the spring. You're going to see how much better your young athlete is in comparison to everyone else who did not have that private instruction. So what specifically should athletes be doing during that off season? Well, let's break down this by category for some clarity for you guys, and we're going to give you some actionable advice. Let's talk about hitting first. The one thing that you should be doing right away, get private lessons to refine the swing mechanics. This is going to incorporate a lot of tee work and front toss and video review by an expert who's done this a zillion times, who's got experience playing themselves, that can really analyze a young athlete's swing and make those adjustments for improvement. They're going to focus on adjusting the grip, hand positioning, stride patterns. There's a lot of things that a child can do when it comes to hitting that an expert trainer is going to reveal during their analysis. Pitching. I can't talk about this enough and stress the importance for pitchers to have a quality offseason. You don't want to go from the last pitch in the fall to the first pitch in the spring without doing anything in between and expect huge improvements. It's not going to happen. You can't just rely on puberty and strength to be the difference maker. The off season for a pitcher is the perfect opportunity. It is literally the time carved out in the 12-month schedule for your young athlete to be learning the proper pitching mechanics, to learning a new pitch. As their body gets bigger, there should be changes to their mechanics, and you need a trained professional that can come alongside that athlete, understands where they are on their athletic journey based on their age, when they hit puberty. There's a lot of other factors, and know what they should be learning next. That's setting them up for real success. Now, another thing that you should be working on with pitching in the offseason is command. Spin rates. If you don't know what that is, you can refer to some of our other episodes. Velocity. You can unlock velocity. Throwing programs to build up arm safety, introducing recovery programs to keep them on the field longer. You're going to be focusing on mechanics without worrying about the batters, which is a huge psychological advantage to the offseason. Let's talk about fielding and catching. How about footwork drills, transfer speeds, throwing accuracy, and timing? And one of the most neglected aspects of being an athlete, let's talk about speed, strength, agility. Lateral movement, first step quickness, resistance-based strength training. How about core stability and balance? Recovery mobility, injury prevention. These are all really important aspects of training that you do in the off season that most young athletes, and I'm going to use that strongly, most young athletes are not doing. Yet it is the differential in becoming a good athlete, going from good to great to elite. The elite athletes, they're doing this. So when you show up next spring and you're like, oh, Johnny Smith over here, holy cow, they got so much better. It's not by accident. It's on purpose. It's intentional. They went through an off-season program that adapted to where they are in their journey, how old they are, where they are in their puberty. Guys, let's just talk about it, right? It's important. It's part of it. For boys and girls, it's also different. And they introduced then, based on those factors, the proper strength, agility, speed, mechanics that made them better. Those are the kids showing up next spring that are the studs because they had a quality off season. Now, why private lessons and small group clinics work? Here's just 6 reasons. 1, it's personalized correction and progression. 2, the instructor can assess an athlete's strengths and weaknesses. 3, athletes gain confidence in learning without peer pressure. 4, it creates structure and routine in the off season. 5, it's an opportunity to build relationships with great coaches. 6, it nurtures the passion, and it matters. Athletes need a mentor just as much as they need a workout. For my favorite segment, we're going to be busting myths as it relates to our theme today. Myth number 1, they need a break from all sports. The truth? Yes, but strategic rest doesn't mean a 3 to 5 month layoff. Myth? Oh, she'll figure it out during the practices. The truth, mechanics are hard, and they're really, really hard to fix in a practice with 12 other kids on the team in that practice. That child needs focused time to be able to improve. 3, they're too young for strength training. Well, the truth, with the right coach, even a 10-year-old can build strength safely that helps them in the future. Last myth of the day, it's too expensive. Here's the truth. Most programs offer small group sessions that make it affordable. Think of it as investing in your athlete's growth. So if one-on-one training is not in the cards for you right now, find a really, really good small group clinic that your child can participate in that is not as expensive, but they're still getting that really good quality training in the off season. So what are the risks involved in allowing your athlete to wait until the next season to start training and practicing again? Well, here are some of these risks. First, the athlete is going to be behind everyone else who did in fact work during the winter. Also, there's not going to be enough time to fix the flaws during practice leading up to the first game. The confidence is going to suffer when the results don't show up. You know this as parents. You've seen it during the season. Also, the risk of injury is going to increase from lack of preparation. And lastly, coaches notice who's ready and who is not. I want to encourage all you parents, because we're all raising our athletes together, to really do some research on some quality programs and local instructors that you can enroll your kids into that private lesson or into that small group clinic. You are going to see the benefits of this. And you may not see it after that first lesson or the first month of the small group clinics. You will, I promise, you will notice it that first time back next season when they're back with their team in that first practice and in that first game, because your child is going to run faster, hit harder, and throw more accurate than anyone else. Why? Because they had focused training with an experienced instructor. Champions are made in the off season. If you wait until spring, it's too late. I want to encourage you to reach out to a trusted local program like R3 Athlete Performance located in Hotesville, New York, to get on the schedule before the slots fill up. Your child will thank you for it, and you will actually love the results that you get. Because remember, there's a way that you can have your child instructed where they're learning things that are hard. They're going through things that are a little bit different. But guess what? They're also developing a love and a passion and an appreciation for the sport. Getting them to love the process is so good for that child long term, because they learn to love every aspect of the sport, not just playing in the game and hitting the home run, but they're loving and appreciating and respecting the training that goes along with it. The off season is your time to help your child develop into a champion. We'll see you next time on Raising Athletes.